I think I was just battling a lot of depression and anxiety at the time. I know a lot of us do. One of the quickest things for me when I go through times like that is when I count my blessings. I realize that it's just all perspective sometimes. You know, I just got to shift my perspective. The original spark, I feel like for Deep Reverence is me and Nipsey. We were sending tracks back and forth to each other for quite some time. A hit had Nip's verse and he played it for me and I laid a scratch down on it. And we left it alone for a while because I just didn't have the inspiration to finish the song, I felt like. Unfortunately, Nip passed. I got the news when I was in Detroit at the time. And, you know, it was just a crazy, crazy moment for everybody. I remember when I got back in the studio and I was kicking it with Hit, he said, yo, you need to finish the song. You need to finish this Deep Reverence. And I was like, man, that might be a little too much for me. And all of a sudden, all of the inspiration, just the stuff that was building up in my heart, I just let it all out. Hit was like, yo, you think we should drop some new music? And I was like, whatever you feel. But I was like, don't drop Deep Reverence though. Whatever you do, don't drop that one. That's just too special. Hit Boy's in front of the whole world. Boy Wonder plays that Roddy Drake song and he looked at me because I was in the room and he dropped that Deep Reverence, man. And things like that are supposed to happen, you know. I wasn't mad at all. It felt right. And I got pressure on me. 7 days a week is game 7 on me. Life a test you out. You live through that, that's testimony. Giving them hell, but how in the hell I got all these blessings on me? A doctor told me that there's the 2 types of stress, distress and eustress. And distress is the stress that enables you and slows you down and makes you not perform at your highest. But eustress is the stress that pushes you to limits that your body wouldn't normally go to if you were just comfortable. I felt like I was under a lot of both of those stresses at the time. That eustress really, really came through for me and helped me focus and push beyond. So that's what I was hoping to get across. Most of the girls I know addicted to social media. All the time they put in, they could have wrote encyclopedias. Mama said it only takes one time to fuck up your whole Wikipedia. And as his son, I could see the type of light that you see me in. That actually was a conversation we had where she was like, this is going to be on your Wikipedia. And I just remember, it was actually a time where I was in court and was going through something. And she was like, we got to work this off of your Wikipedia. When I say as your son, I could see the type of light that you see me in. It's obviously a double entendre of being her son and how she looks at me, but also her world revolving around me because, she's told me that before, like the earth does the sun. After what happened in Nipsey, I reached out to Kendrick. It wasn't even no real issues there to begin with. Lack of communication and wrong information from people fueled by the ego is like mixing flames with diesel. One of my producers that I signed, Amir, did the intro to Victory Lap. So me and Nip would frequently talk about that, and he shot the video for it, and he invited me to the video shoot. And it was like an hour and 45 minutes away. And he was like, we're going to be here for a few more hours. And I just was like, man, I'm going to just catch you on the next one, bro, because the shit was so far and I wasn't even prepared. You know what I'm saying? That was one of the last videos, that he did. Nipsey inspired me that time is of the essence. So don't treat it like it isn't. You got to go for it. If it's on your heart, then you got to get to it. And I remember I had a show that time for J. Cole's festival. And I got on a plane. And SZA and Punch were on there, and I ended up sitting next to Punch. Nip had just passed, and we were talking and catching up, and then he was like, yo, did you ever holler at Kendrick? I knew it was nothing between me and Kendrick for real. It was really like just a lot of talk. But he was like, nah, you should just reach out to him though, man. Just reach out to him, and y'all should just talk. It's been a while. So, it felt good to catch up and just have that mutual respect with K-Dot in a conversation. We came back together like, yo, life is short. Energy crazy. I realized that it's a two-way street. What's coming is going. If it don't give you more, it drains you. I was reading that book, The Hidden Messages in Water. When he would freeze this water, it would turn into certain crystals microscopically, but whatever he said to the water affected the water. If he was saying positive affirmations to the water, then it would turn into this beautiful crystal. If it was like, you suck or I hate you, for an example, to this water, the crystals would be damaged and hurt. The water has been here for so long, longer than us, right? So it has knowledge. So he was saying that the water communicates to us. And point is that we're 70% water. I remember thinking that, man, this is a scientific evidence that our words, our energy affects each other and affects ourselves. Energy to me is something that can make, break, destroy, create, change your destiny, fulfill your destiny. Should be a billionaire based on the time off I'm not taking. Probably why this shit with me get crazy and we lost the baby. And everybody around me think I'm the one, but we all just one-on-ones. And I'm walking out the crib, they ask me where I'm going. I told them I'm going on another 10-year run. Niggas is banging over blocks that they don't own, thinking that's home. Boy, you think that's where you from? You don't really know where you from. You don't know how deep your roots is, what your ancestors had done. So God bless all of the sons and daughters who knew their history, so they knew where to take it farther. And all the ones that stuck with me like good barbers. Looking at my life story, God's a good author. I mean, when I say like God's a good author, it's because life doesn't always go how you want it to go. When you give it up to God and you give it up to the universe and that it's working with you and things don't go your way, it's for a reason. Never was a lot of us in the room. We move like ninjas, and if it costs you peace of mind, it might be too expensive. So I can't give you everything that you want from me for free, though. Get you one shot in life, you might not be able to reload. When things don't go my way, I have to remember what I'm asking for. And what I'm asking for is for me to be the best version of myself, for God to work with me, to protect me, to show me what I need to do to walk in my purpose, to live in my purpose. So advanced, I need all my advances. Bro hit me up for cash like we didn't have the same chances. My dad hit me up like, why I don't live in a mansion? I was just venting at the time, and like me and my dad have some conversations and, hey, why I don't live in a mansion, man? Like, and it's like, shit, cuz I'm figuring it out for myself, Like, by the way, he's a great dad. He's a real player, you know what I'm saying? Leather pants rocking, just cool, man. And he's gained a lot of wisdom over the years. But on top of the wisdom, you can still see that just like that guy who just will just say whatever the fuck he wants to say. And I'm trying to focus, but baby girl, keep holding my mind for ransom. And that ain't how it's supposed to be. That man Hov got to a B, and his name Shine too. I almost felt like it was me. I love like double, triple entendres, you know what I mean? And obviously he got to $1 billion, but he also got to his wife, B, as well. He's somebody who, somebody who's had his hand on the culture for as long as I could, since I was in middle school, you feel me? Damn, I realized all my setbacks were inside of me. In high school, I learned chemistry, biology, but not how to cope with anxiety or how I could feel like I'm by myself on an island with depression on all sides of me. I do remember recording that part of the song, and I had tears in my eyes for sure. Because it just felt like I was really releasing something, That is another subject. I actually, when I did play the song, I was talking about how I played it for Hov before. That part of the song, I was mumbling a little bit. So me and him having a conversation about, about high school reorganizing some of their classes and how they need to teach, in health, they need to include how to really cope with anxiety, how to deal with depression, because those are things that we all face, And I don't know how often I use everything I learned in chemistry in high school or how often I use biology, but I do have to experience anxiety and depression sometimes on a daily basis. With a Glock 17 right on the side of me. Look, I ain't think I had the thought of suicide in me until life showed me all these different sides of me. Too many times I thought the Reaper was outside for me. And how the fuck is people that never met me that hate me? I wonder if they understand that I meditate daily. I definitely take like 15 to 20 minutes to meditate every day. I've come now to the point in my life where I have a meditation that works great for me. I have a process where I write down my intentions either for the day or for the week or for the later on in the year. And I do it every single day. I say it out loud right after I'm done writing it. I actually do that before I meditate, and altogether it takes about 30 minutes. I feel like my life purpose is to give inspiration. Despite the hit songs, that there's just no escaping it. I take care of my family and beat the odds that were deadly. The best part about it isn't like, I always wanted to hear my song on the radio. I always wanted the rollie. I always wanted the crib and all this shit, right? Cars. I remember it didn't amount to me buying my mama a crib. That was the best feeling, to buy my mama a house. It's like, damn, I did this and move her and my grandma to that house and my brother. Being able to support my family, being able to be the man of the house for real. Not just say that, to really be the man of the house is one of my biggest accomplishments in life for sure.
You hate that just reflects your lack of succession. Bless him. If it ain't Nipsey Blue, it's Detroit Blue. This that Detroit 2. I'm bringing it back to the hood like D-Boys do. Gone.
I mean, at that time, I'm just talking about all that we do. You know, I feel like my city put me on, period. It's a place where you gotta earn people's support. They don't just give it to you. You gotta earn it. You know, it's a tough crowd in Detroit. Yeah, we give back not just on Thanksgiving or, you know, holidays. We got after school programs. My mom, that's her life's work. If you a real boss, you gotta give back. I know that Nipsey is like-minded too. You know, he was somebody who was giving back always. Nipsey was somebody who was really about his community. He brought it right back to his hood. When I think about my family tree and just think about, you know, all that they've been through, it's like history. One of the things that I always pray for is that my ancestors guide me with their knowledge and protect me from their shortcomings.